We've had a lot of requests for critiques on the images that were submitted in the competition this past Thursday, so I'm going to go through these and make sure I hit every single one. I'm going to do groups 1 and 2 in two separate videos, and then when I get access to number 3, then I'll do that one as well. And this is the first image that comes up in number 1, and one of the most difficult things to do is to shoot the Milky Way, especially when you're in a high light pollution area. It looks as though that what you did right in this shot was compose it correctly. You have a foreground element that adds to the image. It's white balanced perfectly. It looks really, really like a really nice dark night color palette, but it's extremely difficult to shoot the Milky Way in light pollution. I can tell we've got light pollution because in the lower right-hand area of the image, it's brighter than the upper left, and that tells me this was done somewhere in the Austin area. Maybe not. Maybe I stand to be corrected, but in any case, processing a shot of the Milky Way is a very difficult thing to do, and it's just something you gotta, the only way to learn it is trial and error. Just give it a shot and see what happens. The biggest help in this regard is to find a very dark area. It doesn't have to be perfect, doesn't have to be a class 5 dark area, but something definitely different than the Austin metropolitan area, which it looks like to me was the environment that this was shot. So good idea, good composition, good focus, good color balance. Just try to get away from the light pollution, and the processing is also kind of difficult because you have to use a lot of contrast. You're going to go to the clarify slider or the clarity slider rather, in Adobe Camera Raw. That'll also help out when you process this image. The next one we've talked about at length. This is a tremendous shot, something you don't see every day. Obviously of I'm going to call this a hawk. Being spritzed by his trainer/owner. I'm assuming that's who that is. Great background out of focus. You can see the water. The bird is obviously enjoying being spritzed, and it's just a very, very, very good image. This one also, I like the processing. You had that high HDR look in a military type shot, and this is very, very good in concept. I don't know exactly what is going on here. I mean, it's obviously a picture of someone with a machine gun on top of a Jeep. I don't know if this is an actual combat situation or a display or a show or some military gathering of some kind. But the composition is perfect. The focus is perfect. The processing is perfect, and it's good that this was put into a black and white. I don't think it would work quite as well in color, but very, very good job on this image. The only thing that I'm not seeing here is the story. You would think that, okay, if this were a real combat situation, then this would reflect fatigue, and he's pausing to, take a drink of water. But since we don't know the context of the image, it's very difficult to derive the story out of this image. But otherwise, very, very good. And again, we've talked about this one. Now, as I look at it closely on my screen, what I'm seeing is a duck, and this might have been a juxtaposition of the sky versus the hood element on this antique car. You might have gone in maybe a little closer. Now that I'm sitting looking at this on my laptop, I think the way to improve this, if that's what you're going for, making that assumption, if that was it, you might go in just a little tighter on this. And of course, I can't tell you exactly how much, but focusing more attention on the duck as a hood ornament, I think would definitely help this image. But it's very well exposed. You got good focus. So just tightening up on the composition might help this one a great deal. And this one is good in its concept. I think the main thing lacking here is, number one, cropping, and number two, post-processing. The colors are great. The color balance is great. I think more could have been done maybe to get some more emphasis on this area up here in the clouds and possibly down here, and maybe crop it like right across here and maybe take off some of this water down here. Of course, you have this reflection. So again, it's all subjective, but I think just a little more processing on this would have really helped the dramatic impact of this image. But it is composed rather well. Your horizon is straight. The exposure is really good. You haven't blown out this central area where the sun is like so many people do. So very, very good job in that regard. Just maybe boost your processing some and think about a different kind of maybe single image landscape crop. And again, we've talked about this one. The colors are spectacular. I would say maybe boost these just a little bit, not with the saturation slider, but with the vibrance slider. I think the vibrance would do a lot more for this image than the saturation slider. But good composition, maybe a little bit closer as we discussed in the meeting, maybe just a little bit closer to maybe this one and possibly this one. But your composition is good as far as it goes. Your horizon is level. The exposure, again, is very, very good. So just maybe a pop in the saturation, maybe getting just a little bit closer to maybe one of these windmills may have given you a little bit of an improvement. But those are nitpick things. That's a very good image. Well done. And again, we've talked about this one, and I'm very sure what you were going for is the colors that were on this shelf. You got the pink, the orange, the yellow, and the green, and at an angle, I don't think it works. I think if you did this straight on, where you had equal composition on all the colors, I think would be a better impact on this. But your thinking was correct. What you did was the composition, how can I put this? I think you would have benefited by a better, different composition, but what you did, given this was the decision you made, was very good in that it was equally composed on the top and bottom of the image. And as far as it goes, it was good. But I think my own personal opinion, again, very subjective, is to shoot this one straight on at a 90-degree angle with equal representation in your image space and your image real estate going to each of the four colors. And again, we've talked about this one, a classic portrait, 4th of July portrait, happy person, very relaxed, having fun, just not a whole lot to say about it other than it's just very good based on exactly what you see. A very, very good portrait of somebody having a good time on the 4th of July. Very, very well done. Again, a very simple shot, but you obviously got very close. Very, very good composition, good exposure, good background. I'm seeing this bird standing on one leg. So you did good. This was an excellent shot. The lighting is perfect. And the only thing, now again, this is just so incredibly nitpick, is the bird's not doing anything, just kind of standing there. And I think what you want to look for in wildlife, which is sometimes incredibly difficult to achieve, is to get an animal doing something that it would do naturally in the wild. Most of the time that would involve eating, catching its prey, and so on and so on. But sometimes you have two birds together that are interacting, so you're always looking for the activity of the bird. But if you're going to get one that's just standing there, then this is a good one to get. Again, this one is slightly out of focus. Mountain goats are notoriously difficult to shoot because they're so elusive. If this was a staged shot, this is even a good shot in staged environment. Because again, even if it is staged, these mountain goats are incredibly difficult to get. So from that standpoint, you did a really, really good job. I would just maybe boost the vibrance just a little bit. And of course, obviously next time, get it in focus. It's just so barely out, close enough, but no cigar. And this one, technically, it's perfect. It's well exposed. It's well composed. You did a great job on this. I don't know what I'm looking at. I don't have the story. Now that we have discussed it, I see what is that, a plasma gun or some sort of purple something being fired out of this model of the, I want to say Terminators, but I know that's not right. So that movie that features all those machine monsters, I'm sure this is where this is coming from, but I don't get the story. But other than that, very, very good. I will say one thing you did really, really well was you put a vignette on the right side of the image over here and focused the attention on the robot. And there's some vignette over here. So your vignetting was perfect. I just wish I knew a little more about the story of what it is we're seeing. And this, again, I don't have the story. We have very good texture, very good mood. The exposure is good. I just don't know what we're looking at. I'm a little perplexed about what this is. It's a little out of focus here. I think the focus is here, which I think is the centerpiece of the image. I don't know what this light is. It's just, what is this? So I can't comment on anything else. Do we know exactly what it is we're looking at? So let's go to the next one. And this is also very, very well executed. The only thing I would say is that when I first looked at this, I thought, okay, great shot of a flower. And then I noticed the bee. Now, in this particular shot, the bee is camouflaged by the background initially. I mean, obviously you're going to see that bee if you hang with the image long enough and look at it. But on the first glance, I don't see it. So if the bee were like somewhere over in this area or somewhere else in front on some of these other, I don't even know what they are, but those orange things sticking out with the red tips, the bee needs to be a little more prominent, maybe right in here, so that we can know exactly what we're looking at. But it's composed well, it's exposed well, the white balance is perfect, it's in focus, the background is out of focus the way it should be, so you did everything right. The only other thing I would improve would be to replace, just kind of wait, let that bee crawl around to another position on the flower. And this is the granddaddy of them all. We have this squirrel up above this owl, which I'm told this is a real owl, and that owl looks totally irritated by the presence of this squirrel, but the owl is not intimidated. He's just sitting there going, as if to say, I just wish you would move on, or don't bother me anymore, or you are so rude, or what other little frustrating thought this owl seems to be contemplating. And the squirrel appears to be a troublemaker, a pest. So it's a real good shot. I think we gave this first place in the list of images. So there you have it. That's group number 1.